In a world thirsting for sustainable and clean sources of energy, the concept of free energy stands as a beacon of hope, promising an endless supply of power without the cost of environmental impact of traditional fuels. At the heart of this revolutionary idea is a figure whose work has both inspired awe and ignited controversy: Tom Bearden, a retired lieutenant colonel from the U.S. Army, physicist and proponent of free energy technologies.
It turns out that in electromagnetics, there are such rivers of energy, many, many rivers of energy, very few of which we're trying to actually tap in the fashion we would tap the river to power the meal.
Tom Bearden's journey into the realms of unconventional science began with his exploration of zero-point energy, a vast, inexhaustible source of power that exists in the vacuum of space itself.
So the free energy, the term free energy, loosely means we're trying to go after the energy flow that's already in nature or that we can make occur in nature very easily.
According to quantum physics, this vacuum isn't empty, but teems with fluctuating energy particles. Bearden and others in the field argue that tapping into this reservoir could provide humanity with limitless energy, fundamentally transforming our world entirely.
By the way, today, I'm happy to report that in the last 2 years, the U.S. Patent Office has officially recognized the vacuum as a source of energy. It's been known for 50 years in physics, but only in the last 2 years has the U.S. Patent Office recognized it officially as a source of energy, and they have actually issued some patents now for extracting energy from the vacuum.
Really?
One of Bearden's most notable contributions to the field is his development of the motionless electromagnetic generator, or MEG, which he claims can produce more energy than it consumes, thereby defying the traditional laws of physics as we understand them.
Well, conventionally, we're taught that the empty space is just inert.
Like this.
It's just an emptiness sitting there with nothing going on. Well, we know today, and we've known for many, many years, 5 decades, we've really known experimentally as well, that that's not true. In fact, it's filled with enormous energy, but the energy is not organized. It's going every which way. But it is enormous energy. And in fact, it is so much energy, there is so much energy in space, empty space, the vacuum, that it's mind-boggling. For example, Wheeler made a calculation showing that 1 cubic centimeter, which is about the size of the tip of your little finger, has enough energy in it that if you were to condense it into mass, you would have more mass than is in the observable universe seen by the largest telescope.
The MEG, according to Bearden, harnesses the vacuum's energy, converting it into usable power without the need for external sources of energy. This device, if proven to work as described, could end our resilience on fossil fuels, nuclear power, and other finite resources.
Now, Nikola Tesla was involved with this, wasn't he?
Yes, Tesla once, in his later life, he built a free energy device which he used to power an automobile, one of the old Pierce Arrow cars. His nephew who rode in the car with him on a test drive is still alive, so he remembers
really?
the drive very well.
Wow.
But he did actually power an automobile with energy taken directly from empty space, from the vacuum.
Critics, however, argue that Bearden's theories and inventions could conflict with the principles of conservation of energy, a cornerstone of modern physics, stating that energy cannot be created or destroyed, only transformed.
One is to look at them with vibrations and waves, and the other is to look at them with particles that are moving. One we would call a flux, a lot of particles moving in different directions. And another we would call waves, we would call vibrations. Excuse me. So if we look with the particle view, the vacuum then would be a vast series of incredibly dense little particles forming and unforming all the time. I'm going to wash out on you
I mean, here, let's have some water.
Anyway, we have what we call virtual particles. It only appears out of nothing, disappears back into nothing very rapidly. You can't grab one individually, but lots of them, if they get in line and hit something, they make the forces of nature. And that's the particle view. So in that view, the vacuum is an incredibly intense flux of virtual particles, bombarding everything in the world, but each little particle hits so lightly you don't know it. But if they line up, you can get any amount of force or power you wish to from the vacuum flux.
Skeptics demand empirical evidence and peer-reviewed research to substantiate Bearden's claims, which to date had been met with limited scientific acceptance. Despite the skepticism, Bearden's work has sparked a significant following among those who see him as a pioneer, challenging the boundaries of conventional science to usher in a new era of energy and independence.
If we take the wave view, we find that from everything that moves in the universe, it puts out electromagnetic waves from all over the universe, and at each and every little region of space, there is an incredible number of waves passing through from all particles in the universe. And the total interference of all of these waves is extremely dynamic, incredible numbers of them, and so you have all this interferometry going all the time, and that's called the zero-point energy of the vacuum. You can never get anything less than that energetic from a wave viewpoint. But we know from Paul Dirac that if you add energy to one of those forms, anything that's sitting there hidden in the vacuum, if you add energy into that form, you can in fact materialize it. You can lift electrons, for example, right out of the Dirac sea, and you have a real electron born out of so-called nothingness.
His research into scalar electromagnetics, a theory extending beyond the electromagnetic spectrum, proposes novel ways of generating and transmitting energy, potentially offering solutions to global energy crises and even possibilities for new modes of communication and, of course, weaponry.
We have an object we call a mirror that's going to do the reflection. Don't think about shiny. It's not shiny. It's just nonlinear material. And in comes a wave, and what is going to happen is another wave is going to be produced that everywhere in space this other wave occupied, this wave will precisely superimpose back along there, along the path. It will go backwards, and that is a time reverse wave. We can't see time, so we see it as if it were going backwards in space. But it is a time reverse wave. It's moving backwards in its time.
Now, is there a way to rephrase what you've just said so that, say, a teenager could really understand? Sure. Could you go through that?
If I have a gate in a river and the gate remains closed, all the particles of water that strike the gate reflect back into the river. But if I open the gate, some of the particles strike the bank, and then some of them strike where the gate was, and they go on through and they get gated out into the ditch that's going to run the water wheel. So the charge itself, because of its spin and a couple other factors, actually does some gating. It gates the energy from one form into another, changes the form of it into something we can use. And so every charge in the universe is already a little free energy system. All we have to do is learn how to use them correctly.
The implication of Bearden's theories and proposed technologies are profound. Imagine a world where energy scarcity is a thing of the past, where clean, abundant power fuels our homes, industries, and vehicles, significantly reducing the environmental damage inflicted by centuries of industrialization. Such a future would not only alleviate the geopolitical tensions fueled by competition for energy resources, but also dramatically accelerate progress towards a more sustainable and equitable global society.
But you said something about the speed of light. Now, people, I think the general populace sort of thinks that the speed of light is the maximum degree of speed that there is, but that's not true.
It's not true. De Broglie waves, for example, since their very inception, have always traveled faster than the speed of light. Slowest they can travel is the speed of light. Many other things, like in what's called the Coulomb gauge, the standard old garden variety potential common voltage would travel faster than the speed of light. So the question is how to get it in a Coulomb gauge. But these are quite well known. They're just not used.
As we stand at the crossroads of history, faced with the daunting challenges of climate change and energy scarcity, the work of visionaries like Tom Bearden invites us to dream of possibilities beyond the confines of our current scientific dogma.
And if you say we can't go faster than the speed of light, really all you're saying is we can't rotate past 90 degrees. Well, if you use only 4 dimensions, so you only got one 90-degree angle, that's as far as you go. There aren't any other to turn to. But if you add a few more dimensions, you can turn and turn and turn forever, and there's no limit to the speed.
Whether his theories and inventions will stand the test of time and scientific scrutiny remains to be seen. But the quest for free energy continues, fueled by the promise of a brighter, cleaner, and more sustainable future for all.
Really
okay, simply put here.
Simple put.
The first requirement is I must not kick apart the dipole.
Uh-huh.
Okay, that means I must do one of two things. Either I must not ram the spin electrons back up through the dipole the wrong way, it's trying to push them the other way, and knock the dipole apart, or I must trick this dipole and trick those electrons so that they wish to move of their own volition from the bottom line up to the top.
A voluntary movement.
Now, both ways can be done. One way to do it is don't even have a circle, just surge the current back and forth. That was Tesla's favorite way. Mm-hmm. In his magnifying transmitter, he went from the top to the bottom. He didn't actually have a closed loop, so he didn't knock his dipoles apart. It was a matter of timing from then on. The thing that we're working on in CTEC, we have discovered a process that we call bridging. And the idea is if we can cause a little time reversal zone right where that dipole is.
Which means time reversal, we're going this way, we're coming
back.
back.
It means the videotape runs backwards.
Videotape runs
Now, let's talk about a time reversal zone.
Okay.
When we took physics and we took electricity in school, they taught us that two like charges repel and that two unlike charges attract. That's true as long as time is running forward.
But
it's
when
not
it's
true when time reverses. It's exactly the opposite.
Like attracts like.
All right. So if I can get a little time reversal zone in here, which I can do with phase conjugation, if I get it just right,
that's this.
When the electron gets to the bottom, he says, I'm supposed to fall down back to this position.
I can't play the game anymore.
He's not playing the ram it up through the dipole forcibly. He's playing fall down the stairs. He thinks he's falling down the stairs freely.
Right.
And so the electrons will appear against the way we see from outside. We see it moving against the voltage. That's called a negative resistor, by the way, when it does that.
That's like swimming uphill.
That's right. It's like the water flows uphill of its own volition, which it will do if time runs backwards.
Thanks for joining me on another episode of Whispers of Myth. And remember to like and subscribe.